The future of South Africa is in the hands of the youth, and the Construction Education and Training Authority took the opportunity to reach out to young people at the Adenco 400. Various branches of CETA were represented at the race, with officials handing out pamphlets and other information to youngsters who flocked to the CETA presentation.
There is a synergy. Most of the vehicles that you see today obviously requires ingenuity, mechanics and skills required to actually operate those vehicles, and also for people to further expand as well in terms of education and training.
The CETA officials manning the exhibition also stressed the synergy between off-road racing and the services they provide in exposing young people to training in the engineering and other sectors of the economy.
The first race of a new season always provides an interesting mix of the old and the new, with the new cars having changes to team personnel and newcomers to the sport. All these ingredients were very much in evidence in the special vehicle category at the Adenco 400 and provided for an air of expectancy as the countdown to the race continued. One of the changes saw brothers and former SA champions Johan and Etienne Besaidnout reunited in the Adenco bat.
Ja, ons het besluit om hierdie jaar weer saam in die kar te klim. Ek dryf en Etienne navigate vir my. Ons was 'n wenkombinasie, so ons gaan maar weer kyk hoe gaan dit hierdie jaar.
We love Darling. It's a nice type of race. The people are fantastic. It's an excellent organised event. We'd like to get off on a good foot, trying to get some points on this race. It's far to get here, so you need to at least take something back home. Yeah, we're trying to get off to a better start this year than last year.
I've always enjoyed it down here, and we've traditionally had some good results here. So you've got to keep your wits about you here, you know. And apparently we can spend a lot of time up in the mountains, which I'm quite excited about. But yeah, it's a tough one to start the year. It's a long way from home, but it's the first one, so everyone's enthusiastic.
I was given an opportunity by Gary Bertolt and to come into an Atlas Copco racing team. And with an opportunity like that, I couldn't let it pass. Been offered a fantastic car, fantastic drive, to get involved in a brilliant team, and it's a new challenge for me. You know, off-road is quite something else. I've never put a car on the dirt before, so we're going to give it a go this weekend and see how we do.
The top 5 seeded crews in the special vehicle category also draw for start positions on the Donaldson Prologue. Former South African champion Evan Hutchison has a habit of drawing the number 1 slot out of the hat, and the Motorride team leader did it again.
Look, if there's one thing I've learned to do in off-road racing, it's pull number 1 out of that back box. Yeah, pull number 1 again. We've done it so many times. I suppose we've gotten used to it. It is a disadvantage, but we'll go and work with it. You know, hopefully gates are all open and we're first on the road, so we'll give it a full go.
The same principles in place for the production vehicles apply to the Special Vehicle Brigade at the Donaldson Prologue. The name of the game is to finish as far up the ladder as you possibly can. The further back you finish on the prologue, the tougher it is to make up ground during the race, where dust is always a major factor. To all intents and purposes, the prologues of the Adenco 400 were flat-out sprint races, with the less powerful but more nimble Class P crews expected to trouble Class A teams on a tight and technical route. There were a few shots and a touch of controversy in store.
The Century Racing combination of Colin Matthews and Alan Smith have been branded as prologue specialists. The pair have blistering pace, but reliability has always been a problem, and they have been unable to take prologue victories a step further. Matthews and Smith set a blistering pace, but were chased all the way by KwaZulu-Natal crew Don Thompson and Wayne Foster in a Zarko, and a third Class P car in debutant Richard Fuller and Jeff Minnett in the Atlas Copco bat, with less than a minute separating the 3 cars.
The father and son pairing of Nick and Ryan Harper made a solid start to their tenure as members of the Motorride team. With Ryan back in the harness after a long-term shoulder injury, the Harpers were as steady as ever to lead the Class A brigade. There was also a good result for Jimmy Zahos and Stefan Kutsia in the Cobalt Racing Porter, with the pair a solid 5th behind the Harpers in the Motorride bat. Controversy then reared its head when more than half the special vehicle field were penalised 10 minutes for failing to stop at road crossings. Class P crews Marius and Yolinda Fourie and Archie Rutherford and Mike Lawrenson leapfrogged into the top 8, with the likes of SA champions Kali and Quinton Sulwald among those penalised. life for Rutherford and Lawrenson was not without its little problems, and they lost time when they had to be towed off a hump at a road crossing.
Former SA champion Evan Hutchison and Dani Stassen steered clear of penalties, but they were hampered by a broken idler pulley that cost them time and dropped the pair to 8th. It was also a frustrating day for Shamir Variawa and Sigrid Rousseau in the total bat when they lost 40 minutes with a broken accelerator cable that dropped them to 22nd overall and 11th in Class A. SA champions Cully and Quinton Sewald were among the high-profile crews that incurred 10-minute penalties, and that dropped the father and son team to 10th overall and 5th in Class A in the Elegant Fuel bat. The Palabora-based team won the SA title in 2007, and the penalty left them with a mountain to climb during the race.
The 3 top finishers in Class B were all hit with a 10-minute penalty, which simply dropped them down the overall pecking order and did not affect their 3-way duel. Keith Makanete and debutant co-driver Letlatsa Lahana in the Zarko ground out a win ahead of veteran Wolf Peter Fumfai in the home-built WPP.
The WPP is a little dated, with car and driver making a return to national racing after a lengthy absence. The steady Fumfai was comfortably ahead of Kutsia Labuskachny and daughter Sandra in a race on Zarko that is of far more recent vintage than the WPP.
Colin Matthews has a racer's instinct, and there was never any doubt that his approach to the race would be based on maximum attack. He was looking forward to enjoying himself.
The Adenco 400 is always a beautiful event. It was hot, dry, dusty, a lot of off-camber turns, so you really had to keep the car on the road. It was very rocky, very twisty. It had some nice fast stuff. So overall, it was a lovely prologue. We loved it.
Competitors in the ABSA Off-Road Championship are spared the early morning starts of days gone by. Races used to start in pre-dawn darkness in out-of-the-way locations, but modern marketing and promotional ideas have made the sport much more accessible to the average motorsport fan. What has not changed is the air of anticipation and expectation on race day as crews prepare for battle.
Very, very dry down here. If you can start ahead and have no problems, then you know the guy was past you first. You know that's not easy.
It's going to be tough if it's anything about what we experienced yesterday. I mean, it's definitely going to be tough. There's tricky places, off cameras, a hell of a lot. So no, we just got to keep our heads calm in the car and get the car to the end.
I thoroughly enjoyed yesterday. It's quite tight. I think it suits my car. Yeah, well marked. Thoroughly enjoyed it. We had a good run.
Well, I think we need to take it easy if you want the car to finish. I saw yesterday we went out really fast yesterday, but the car would never last going out at that speed. Especially what I hear what's out there for us today.
Really, this is a very tough race for us, especially in Class B. There are some very difficult sections for us because of the lack of power. All I want is to finish.
Off-road enthusiasts turned up in their droves to watch the start and catch the action at the numerous spectator points within easy reach of the Darling Club. Spectator attendance at off-road races throughout the country have shown spectacular growth in recent years, and the Toyota 1000 Desert Race in Botswana is the biggest annual social and sporting event in the country. Hannes Krobler and Henny Testeger led the field away. The other significant change in off-road racing is the fact that races are no longer run on corrected time with 2 or 3 minute dust gaps. These days, races are run on real time, with cars starting according to the time set on the Donaldson prologue.
The Baden Tyre Services Nissan Navara of Thomas Rundle and Jean Moore was second car away, 29 seconds behind the RFS BMW of Grobler and Tersteger. The colourful Colin Matthews and Alan Smith were the first of the special vehicles in the Century Racing CR3, and hostilities were underway.
The first 20 kilometers of route from the Darling Club were concentrated in an area bordered by the R315 to Malmesbury and the R307 to Mamre. There were some wide open spaces to begin with, but the route would soon become much tighter and more technical with dramatically slower average speeds. The big advantage for Grobler and Testeger was that being first on the road, they didn't have to contend with a dust problem. The benefits of winning the prologue were immediately evident, and the RFS BMW X3 was building up a head of steam, with Thomas Rundle and Jean Moore in hot pursuit in the Nissan Navara. By their own admission, Rundle and Moore were among the underachievers last season, but it's amazing what a lengthy break can do for a team down on confidence. The prologue result was just the result the Baden team needed to stake early season title credentials.
After the rash of penalties on the Donaldson prologue, crews were showing a great deal of caution at road crossings, and there were also early signs that dust would become more and more of a problem as the race progressed. Colin Matthews and Alan Smith were third on the road, but already the dust was building up. Behind the first three cars, Don Thompson and Wayne Foster were just over a minute behind Matthews and Smith and were being chased by the Ford Ranger of reigning production vehicle champions Chris Visser and Jaapie Badenhorst, who were around 90 seconds behind Grobler and Ter Stegen.
The Atlas Copco Toyota Hilux of Gary Bertholdt and Andre Vermeulen picked up an early place when teammates Richard Fuller and Jeff Minnett overshot a gate. The experienced Bertholdt and Vermeulen now had a clear road between them and the factory Ford Ranger of Visser and Badenhorst. The slight overshoot did not cost rookies Fuller and Minnett much time, and they were soon back on track and pushing hard. The Atlas Copco Bat was being chased by the first of the Class A cars, with the Motorite Bat of Nick and Ryan Harper now ominously poised to put pressure on the Class P crew.
On sections of the route, the dust was a major problem, as Willem and Dana Vos found out in the Fossies Toyota Hilux. Their progress was temporarily halted when they drove smack into a huge bush. There was no damage to the vehicle, and when they got going again, the Fossies quickly caught Kobus van Tonder and Freddie Kriel, who were battling with gear selection and fuel starvation problems in the Unifreight Ford Ranger.
Farmers in the area used local knowledge to pick prime viewing spots and enjoy the action from the back of Bucky's. The Cobalt Racing Porter was sounding healthy, with Jimmy Zahos and Stefan Kutsia holding station ahead of Jannie Visser and Yorks Leroux in the Team Barbespan Toyota Hilux. There was a good scrap going on between former Class E champions Visser and Leroux and Terence Marsh, who had the new co-driver George Smallberger sitting alongside him in the Regent Nissan Navara. Riding in the dust behind the two production vehicles were the husband and wife pairing of Marius and Yolinda Ferrie in the PHB Bat, with the 4x4 Motorite Revo of Evan Hutchinson and Dani Stassen headed for retirement with a broken prop shaft.
Some local residents were completely unmoved by what was going on around them. By contrast, Archie Rutherford and Mike Lawrenson were in a hurry in the Regent Racing Gymco, with time lost on the prologue a setback for the winners of the RFS Magalies 400 last season. Also in a hurry and trying to overcome the 10-minute penalty they picked up on the prologue were SA champions Cully and Quinton Silwald. They had quickly caught Jacques Wheeler and Grant Taylor in the second Total Motorsport Bat, but were more than 11 minutes behind the leaders and faced an uphill battle to salvage as many overall and Class A points as was possible.
Also faced with an uphill battle to salvage precious points were reigning Class P champions Johan van Staden and James Rousseau, who were having their first Class A outing in the new Atlas Copco Bat Spec 5. Johan and Etienne Besadenhout were in the same boat in the Adenco Bat, and there was some furious racing in the midfield.
Mike Whitehouse and Matthew Carlson were also battling to overcome a 10-minute penalty in the second Regent Racing Nissan Navara that came unstuck in thick dust that reduced visibility to nothing. They bogged down in thick sand and were clearly going nowhere unless someone stopped to lend the pair a helping hand.
The Good Samaritans duly arrived in the form of Mick Gosler and Andrew Massey in the Men's Health International Zarco. The Nissan Navara was well and truly stuck, but after a couple of abortive attempts, Gosler and Massey managed to pull the Nissan Navara free for Whitehouse and Carlson to continue on their merry way.